which I think it's good and everything that Nate is helping her to get her confidence and lifts back, but the problem isn't with some random dude bro lifting her. It specifically needs to be the man that she's going to be doing her own competitions with. Hello and welcome to Precondition Points Video Snark. If you came here because you thought that this was an audiobook, please stick around and maybe learn some reading and listening comprehension skills. I read books, discuss what went wrong and how they can possibly be fixed. I'm continuing my read-through of Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 25. The chapter opens with Nate complaining that people can see everything in the leggings Anastasia made him buy, which, why didn't he try them on? He simply bought the first thing he saw, zero questions asked. Even Coach Brady is a little flabbergasted by the sight and makes him put shorts on over them. As Nate goes back into the locker room, Brady warns Anastasia away from going down this path. I'd like to remind everybody that Brady's Olympic skating dreams were crushed when she got pregnant. She's fearful that Anastasia will go down the same path. And why does she only call me her best skater when I don't have witnesses? Considering that this book has gone out of its way to introduce all 5 million members of the hockey team, yet not one single other figure skater, I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's easy to be Brady's best figure skater when the only other figure skater is Aaron. Brady starts to put Nate through his paces and constantly reminds him that a fight isn't going to break out at any second. "Joke's on you," he scoffs. "I don't even know what a Lutz is." Why did you agree to do this if you don't even know the first thing about figure skating? Even I know what a Lutz is. We're then subjected to Anastasia teaching him about the different kinds of jumps for 2 pages, which this isn't a freaking YouTube tutorial. Let's get back to what passes for the plot in this book. Ugh. The entire scene with Nate's first time figure skating is interspersed with Anastasia grumbling about how terrible of an idea that this is, yet also still desiring Nate anyway. It also got really old really fast. After practice, Nate does a lot of moaning and groaning about how brutal that it was, which I'm also over. He signed up for this, he doesn't get to complain when it's actually kind of a lot of work. It's not simply picking up a pretty girl and twirling her around. Anyway, Nate drops her off at home, which he tells the readers that she's been dreading. Honestly, even though I don't think that Nate and Anastasia are a good match, I think that Nate happening to Anastasia is enough of a kick for her to see how completely and utterly awful that Aaron is. I sure hope that she kicks Aaron to the curb by the end of this. When she gets in, she immediately starts to talk about the nutrition plan that Aaron came up with for her. However, I feel like she's being way too nice about the entire thing, especially considering how terrible Aaron has been to her and the way that he responds now. He says that she shouldn't be relying on Nate for nutrition advice simply because the two of them were together physically, and goes on to call Anastasia for letter S word over the entire thing, which I think is really rich considering that Nate is literally in sports medicine, and I'm pretty sure that a big part of that is understanding the nutrition needs of athletes. Yet, what is it that Aaron is doing? Is he studying to be a nutritionist? Because I don't think that he is. He's simply lashing out yet again over the fact that Anastasia is finally starting to call him out on his nonsense. Chapter 26. We jump ahead 2 weeks. Anastasia has been living with Nate and the others ever since that argument with Aaron. However, he says that she's been refusing to touch him and they've been sleeping with pillow berries between them. But in that time, instead of banging like both would obviously want to do, they've been forced to. Let me sit down for this because it's a shocking relationship update. They've been forced to actually talk and get to know one another. Christian Greg could and would never. Also, when they showed Brady Aaron's meal plan for Anastasia, she was instantly and immediately on Nate's side about this being dangerous. She wanted to know why Anastasia would have done such a thing, but Anastasia refused to point fingers at Aaron. She said that it was because she still had to work with him. But that's the thing though, isn't it? In his haste to punish Anastasia for her wanting to actually have a life outside of skating, Aaron isn't even doing figure skating. I am going to be so angry if we reach the end of the book and never find out what actually happened with Aaron. I don't think either of us anticipated the fear she's developed through this disordered way of eating. Thank you so much for finally acknowledging that this was a freaking eating disorder. After this, the book talks for a while about the emotional damage that all of this has done to Anastasia, which I'm so insanely happy to read about. This goes beyond simply, "You're too heavy for me to lift," and went straight to Anastasia now being so afraid to even eat, which I hope that I don't have to explain to people is one of the baselines of basic human survival. It's downright criminal of Aaron to have done this to her, yet she refuses to acknowledge any of this. I'm glad the guys kept Sass distracted enough not to obsess over Aaron. He's been blowing up her phone with apology after apology. It was a moment of anger, he wrote. He didn't mean to shout at her. I could and probably would accept this if this wasn't simply one of thousands of moments in this book alone that Aaron had done the exact same thing. The only reason why Aaron is bothering to apologize right now is simply because Anastasia never ran off like she's doing right now. She's refusing to come home and pretending like she's okay with all of Aaron's nonsense, and that makes me even angrier than the actual argument. Friendships are important, but so is living in a healthy environment, I overheard her say to herself when she rejected his 10th call. Everyone has progress to make. This! So much this! Holy cow! Friendships are important, but you have to know when a friendship is toxic so that you can leave. Also, Nate talks some about how much all of this has been helping Anastasia realize that planners are nice and everything, but sometimes it's important to simply exist without needing every exhale scheduled. This guy has done more for her in 2 weeks than 12 years of therapy. Ugh. All this comes to a screeching halt when Nate gets home one day only to find his father there. He's bitter and angry that Nate has been ignoring his calls, but Nate calls him out, claiming that the dude didn't fly across the country to get to the bottom of being ignored. Nate continues to call Daddy Dearest out when he says that he had a business trip here in California where they don't get snow. Unnamed father says that Nate's unnamed little sister is threatening to quit skiing, and he'd like for Nate to talk to her. Nate is used to his dad's terrible behavior and knows that this isn't about skiing. It's simply the only way that the little sister can get their father to listen. So Nate goes off on his dad and says that she's 16 years old, a literal child. Of course she needs a break. Of course she wants to go somewhere tropical for winter hauls and not think about skiing or any of the pressures that Daddy Dearest keeps putting on her. Obviously upset at being called out so much, Dad then changes the subject and randomly brings up how some girl has been living in your room. He then demands to meet Nate for dinner and reminds Nate of who's been paying the bills for the house, Nate's car, and his tuition. I simply think that it's funny that Nate is quick to call his dad out on his behavior about the sister, but refuses to actually get away from Daddy Dearest himself. Don't get me wrong, because I would have loved to have super rich parents, pay my way through uni, buy me a house and a car, but all of that is obviously coming at too high of a cost for Nate. He needs to be paying his own way. Chapter 27. Back over with Anastasia, they're getting to the point where Nate is going to try to do a lift while on the ice. They've practiced off ice before, but now it's time to finally put all of that work to the actual test. However, Anastasia is clearly suffering from some intense PTSD from her tumble earlier. And I'd like to say, I find it kind of odd that in her entire partner skating career, she's never once been dropped. So why is now suddenly so traumatic? Before this can go further, Aaron shows up and demands that Anastasia listen to what he has to say. Like, literally demands it. I'm so freaking done with him. Ugh. Anastasia goes to get changed and finds a bunch of other skaters gossiping in the locker room. We're over the halfway point in this book, and this is literally the first time that other figure skaters have been mentioned. Anastasia tells Nate that she'll be fine and to wait for her in the car. In the office, Aaron immediately starts to paint not only Nate, but also Anastasia as the problem. It's a move taken directly from the Toxic Person Handbook. You are never the person at fault. Never. However, Anastasia is completely and utterly done with Aaron's nonsense. Why didn't she simply tell Brady that it was Aaron's eating schedule for her? Why can't she simply call it quits in the middle of the season? I know I would. I don't even care about the money or what people would say. My own physical and mental health is worth so much more than a few uncomfortable months of gossip. It isn't accountability, Aaron. It's obsession. You care too much about what I'm doing and who I'm doing it with. My voice breaks and I hate it. I hate that he can tell what he's doing to me. You want to control me and you're destroying our friendship, our partnership. Boom. There it is. Aaron then seems to realize that painting her as a gullible idiot who fell victim to Nate's whims isn't working, so he changes gears and asks when she's coming home. However, again, she's done with Aaron and his nonsense. She tells him, I can't come home with you until you properly understand what you've done. Yes, queen. After walking out from the fight, Anastasia goes to Nate and asks if he wants to do something irresponsible, which in her mind is throwing a party. How exactly is that different from her usual behavior? Anyway, we skip to said party where the boys start to play Never Ever Ever. I don't care about any of this. Nate ends up getting really drunk and wants to have sex with Anastasia. She takes him upstairs and puts him to bed. The only upside is that even when he's sloshed, at least she understands the bare minimum of drunken consent. Anastasia then goes back to the party, only for Nate to show up wearing nothing but his boxers. He whines that she wasn't there and they go back upstairs. Chapter 28. In the morning, Nate wakes up to people complaining that his drunken walk through the party has become a meme, literally overnight, but sometimes it be like that, I guess. News of it spread fast, so fast that even his sister heard about it. She also thanks him for talking some sense into their terrible father because now she's going to a tropical beach for Christmas. Why did the book even bother bringing this subplot up if it was going to be resolved off-page like it was nothing? The next time I see Daddy Dearest, I'm not going to care half as much about his character anymore. She says once she sorts things out with Aaron, she wants to move back. Did I miss some development? Aaron came to try and sort things out and somehow made it worse. Them moving back in together isn't going to happen anytime soon. He goes on to explain that he isn't sure why he cares so much, considering that at the end of this year he's moving to Canada to play hockey. Anastasia will finish up her last year of college in California. However, I'm still of the opinion that they probably won't last until the end of the school year. Later, Nate takes her to the school's pool, which is empty since the swim team is out of state for some competition. He says that this is a Brady-approved trust-building activity, which I think it's good and everything that Nate is helping her to get her confidence and lifts back, but the problem isn't with some random dude bro lifting her. It specifically needs to be the man that she's going to be doing her own competitions with. However, in the previous chapter, Anastasia says that they've been working on these lifts in the gym, but putting it onto ice was the scary part. Doing the exact same thing that they've been doing in the gym, but now in the pool, isn't going to help her. This was simply an excuse for the author to write about Nate drooling over Anastasia in a bikini. Literally nothing else. Thanks for listening to my book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all of my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book Snarks, always free and updated every morning. Newly added to Patreon is to become a member without paying. You'll get access to the same things on Tumblr, but on Patreon. Supporters can have access to so many more Booksnarks starting at $1 a month. Also new is a 1-week free Patreon trial, so be sure to check that out. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my Snark so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $6 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well, just $10 per chapter. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of spicy short stories and 2 full-length novels. I also frequently run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you know when I might be offering things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys!